Everyone, and welcome to HOA Fight Club. I'm Raylene Schifano, and my goal is to help HOA and condo owners not fall into the pitfalls of HOA associations and the things that they can cause homeowners to have to deal with. So today I would like to talk about identifying and dealing with rogue boards. Most of us would think that boards and property managers and that would have some sort of accountability to the states and that people are over them. There is no governance accountability over boards, property managers, and attorneys. So today, as we go to identify a rogue board, what you need to look for. So if you're buying into into a condo association or an HOA, the first thing you'll notice when you go to buy in to identify a rogue board is if the board president or the board is right there when you move in. When I moved into my association, the board president was right there when I moved in. She was there when we came in for the inspection. She was always around, wanting to know what was going on, offering her help in any way. It seemed to me that she was very, very helpful at the time. She really wasn't helpful. What she was trying to make sure that the inspections were going her way, that they weren't identifying things that she was trying to hide. So you want to make sure that if somebody's trying to micromanage everything that's happening on the property, it's probably a huge warning sign that there's a rogue board going on. If the board is not allowing members to go into board meetings and has no transparency, first of all, in Washington state, that is now against the law. I fought really hard for legislation to keep homeowners right so that they could attend all board meetings. So if your board is not allowing you into their board meetings and is not transparent, it's most likely a rogue board. In fact, I would definitely say that's a rogue board if they're not allowing you into the meetings. If they're also not letting you participate in those meetings, they don't have to let you participate during the meeting, but they have to let you have a say before or after the meeting is done so that the homeowners have a chance to give their opinions and things that they would like to see done in the property. One thing I always suggest when you go to a board meeting, if you want to have an opinion during those meetings, type out what you would like to see done and sign it and give it to the property manager before or after the meeting so that your opinions are in writing, and that will help the board keep track of those opinions. So then let's look at if your board members go from passive to aggressive immediately. That is a sign of a rogue board member. So the board president here, when we were doing a project one day, we had gotten permission from her. Well, then all of a sudden she came over and got really angry with my husband all at once, to the point where she was literally shaking. That is a controlling person who is a rogue board. At that point is when we knew we had a rogue board member on our hand. We didn't know we had the entire board was rogue at the time, but we knew that the board president was rogue. So make sure that you keep your eye out for those warning signs. Now, how do you deal with a rogue board or a rogue board member? So I used to think that you should gather your neighbors and get everybody to try to do a recall of the board. Well, that seemed to work if everything was legal. But where you don't control the proxies or the vote or the counting of the vote, my suggestion is not to recall the board. My suggestion is to make friends with the board members and try to get yourself either appointed to the board or voted onto the board. Once you're on that board, you can see everything, all the documents, you have a vote, you have more control. If you try to do anything before you're on that board, you're never going to get on that board, and you surely will not ever get any evidence from them. So the best place to be if you want to know what's going on in your community is to be on that board. As much work as that may be, that will be your only salvation to know what's going on. You want to try to make sure that you're open and communicating with your board at all times. I know this is hard when a board has their targets set on you. I tried to communicate with the board even after the board had fined us, and we had gone through a huge battle. For over 6 to 8 months, we had battled the board on a fine. And after it was done and all the attorneys and everything was done, I went to the board and said, look, let's move on. Let's try to keep this from going any further. Let's keep attorneys out of this now. Let's move on. And I thought that we could do this. Well, unfortunately, the board didn't. That's when they used their malicious intent and retaliation. Unfortunately, that doesn't cost the board anything, it costs the association, and the association is you. So if you have an issue with your board and it doesn't get resolved, your only hope is to either get on the board or sell your home, because it will never, never end. So please try to get on that board or try to sell your home. Let's see, if you really want to try to recall the board, that is a possibility to get control of the association. It's not an easy process. To recall a board, most of the times you have to have a certain amount to even call a special meeting of the ownership. So if you're going to call a special meeting of the ownership in Washington State, you have to have at least 20% of the membership sign to recall the board for the special meeting. You also can do this at an annual meeting or a budget meeting. Any meeting of the ownership, you can actually make a motion to remove the board or a board member. Most homeowners don't know that they don't know that they can actually make motions during these meetings. Any meeting of the ownership, you can make motions. Now, there is one exception. If a special meeting of the ownership is called for a certain reason, you cannot do anything at that meeting except for why that meeting is called for. So make sure you know what your rules and regulations and your CC&R say so that you can keep up with those and follow them, because otherwise those decisions can be contested and thrown out. I know in Washington State, you only have 90 days to contest decisions. So make sure you know the laws in your state to be able to make those decisions correctly and make those votes count. Then, what is the reason boards go rogue? Why would a board want to go rogue? Because they're spending their money, right? Well, let's talk about reasons for a board to go rogue. Well, power. Power is a funny thing. We see it all the time in our government. Power makes people very, very hungry, and they want to be in control. They want to make those decisions. They want to decide whether we have a pool or whether we don't have a pool, how the neighbors spend the money. So I understand wanting to make those decisions, and power is a funny thing. The next one is money. So if you control the money, you control all the decisions, you control everything. So that's why they do it. Our board was fining people into foreclosure and using that money and pushing it out into other nonprofits and commingling funds and violating the law. Nobody knew this until I moved in. They had been doing it for 10 years until I moved in and started asking for documents. So if I wouldn't have showed up, how long would have this board gone on before they were found out and forced to stop? So please make sure that you're double checking things so that not only do they not take advantage of you, but they don't take advantage of those neighbors that can't defend themselves, the seniors that can't defend themselves, the veterans that can't defend themselves. Those are the people that I defend. Those are the people that I don't want to be taken advantage of anymore. The temptation to steal from an association is so high. It's so easy. There is no governance or oversight over HOAs. The Attorney General's office has no power over them. They cannot prosecute them. They cannot do anything. These associations are above the law and above the Constitution. The government has given them all power. They are their own governments inside themselves. So don't think that the government will help you if these boards go rogue, because they won't. The attorneys have made the laws and they've made sure that these boards are covered so that they can profit from these associations and keep them in control. And those corporations are not going to lose that control. So there you go. That's how you deal with a rogue board. Those are my suggestions. See you on the next one.